know, a lot of people have lost their jobs, right? But they got to find out something doing that. They found out that they weren't their jobs. A lot of people think that they are their position, that they are their responsibility, that they are their aspirations, and all of a sudden those aren't there. That person learned a huge lesson, and they got freed up from being stuck in that one thing.
Most people believe that the income tax system is legal and that the revenue from the tax is used in the public interest. However, there is a substantial, conclusive body of evidence that proves that our income tax system represents the most pernicious form of tyranny.
So did you know that you work for the federal government? That's right. You work for the federal government and you didn't even have to take the civil service exam. You, by just being born in Canada, have accepted that you are Canadian. You are an officer of a nation.
If you don't understand, let me explain. When you're born, you are not defaulted as a Canadian. You see, before you plug into the legal system, you are a sovereign individual. You are under no man's law. You're a country under your own. Now, your parents make the lawful decision for you to become a Canadian, and in most cases, the official way to do this is to submit application to register your birth as a Canadian citizen.
Now, when you become a citizen of Canada by birth certificate, you have now plugged yourself into the Canadian legal and revenue system. Once you have done these things, three things happen. First, you become recognized by Canadian law as a natural person, being a living, breathing human being as opposed to a legal entity such as a corporation. The second thing that happens can be found in your birth certificate. This is something you definitely need to remember for later.
Who's got their birth certificates on them right now? Pull it out and look at the back of your birth certificate. On the back of that birth certificate, you will find a number. It's a bond tracking number. The government generated and floated a bond when you were registered as a child. This bond generates revenue every year. The Federal Minister of Finance is acting as your fiduciary agent in trust over your account. When's the last time you told him what to do with your money?
Now, the third thing that happens is that you become recognized as an artificial person, a character, a part, as in a play or specific kind of manifestation or individual character, whether in real life or in literary or presentation, an assumed character. Have you noticed the difference in spelling? This is simply known as the Code of Roman Law. The only way to become a nat person under Canadian law is to take your name and capitalize on it. This is known as capitis diminutio. It is under Roman law a diminishing or aberrant of personality, a loss or curtailment of a man's status or legal attributes and qualifications. The best example we can look at is under the meaning of capitalization. So like I said earlier, when you're born under your own nation, your name is not capitalized at all. Now my name when I was born was like this, but when my parents lawfully made me a Canadian, my name was turned into this. This is the first level of capitis diminutio. It is known as capia diminutio minima, the lowest or least comprehensive degree of loss of status. This occurred when a man's family relations were alone changed, meaning that you have made the child of someone. The capitis diminutio minima spelling of your name is you as a natural person. This spelling represents your body in the court of law. It does not represent the artificial person. A second form of capitalization is this. This is known as capitis diminutio media, a lesser or medium form of loss. This occurred when a man loses his rights of citizenship, but without losing his liberty. It carried away also the rights. Usually where you see this is in institutions such as elementary, secondary, and post-secondary schools. Also in training facilities such as CPR and driving schools. The third level of this system is known as capitis diminutio maxima, the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from the one of freedom to the one of bondage. He became a slave, swept away with all rights to citizenship and all family rights. Seeing your name written like this? Well, if you don't think you have, or if you actually haven't, why don't you look at wallet or purse right now? Truth is, all forms of bank, government documents spell your name this way.
That, you know, I'm talking to them. When you get your paycheck, the parts that are gone, and they have a list of where they say it went. Every dime of your income tax goes to the UN, okay, United Nations, forwards it here, and then they print. Canada borrows and prints again. If we all stopped paying income tax, it would benefit our country. Because they would be foreclosed on by these people. They would be forced to take over this institution and print their own money debt-free. Every dollar they printed would be backed upon our ability to perform labor and work. We would be benefiting our country, believe it or not.
Here doesn't like dealing with income tax people. I went down there to income tax. I was looking for my GST rebate check. I went in there, very true story. I said, yeah, I'm here for my GST rebate. She said, oh, well, what's your social insurance number? I gave it. She punches it in. I'm sitting right here. She's like this. She looks. You haven't filed your taxes for 5 years. I said, really? I thought it was more like 7. She didn't like that.
Now you might be asking, what does lower and case letters have to do with my taxes? Well, when you look at paperwork of court cases, you see this actually every day. In the Canadian legal system, this is how you're tried in criminal court, under this name. Under the civil court, you're charged under this name. Adoption of this system isn't new. In fact, it has been used in both Canadian and American legal systems since their dawn. You can see here a case from 1894. In many documented Income Tax Act precedent court cases, the defendant is never once identified as the natural person.
Well, this was us. That means we were just enslaved. And that in and of itself would be a violation of the UN. It would be a violation of the Crimes Against Humanity Act, violation of so many other laws. This could not be us. But if you created an artificial person who had no human rights, would this be violating anything if you enslaved them?
Normally they would be our servants, and we would be in charge of them. They tricked us all into getting social insurance numbers. These numbers identify us as a government employee.
Now the joinder of these two constituents is occurring in the legal system. How? It can only be done voluntarily. That is why you must apply for every mandatory benefit in Canada. Have you ever noticed that has ever caused you grief and frustration you have had to apply for first? Social insurance card, driver's license, health card, birth certificate, international student ID, passport, the list goes on. These are all mandatory documents. Why do you have to apply for them? The answer? Sign on the dotted line, please. They know who you are. They know the limits they have. That's why they need you to voluntarily enslave yourself.